Welcome to the CHEK blog. I'm here with my UK neighbor.
Yeah, in the UK.
That's right, Warren Williams, CHEK mentor and founder of Warren Williams Coaching. How are you, Warren?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, it's still, kind of grey in the UK. Grey in the UK kind of rhymes.
I was going to say, I'm up here in Glasgow, though, and as everybody can see, we're getting the great weather. I'm here. That's why it is. That's why
Yeah,
it's happening.
yeah, because, Scotland is relentlessly colder than down south where I am in London.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not being reflected in that photo.
That's right. Well, you have a really fascinating topic for us, Warren. I mentioned it in our previous interview, but I'm really looking forward to this today. You're going to talk about exploring Dr. Movement as a means to progress in your life. And I think everybody's probably familiar with sort of the essence or the basics of Dr. Movement, right? It's working in and working out. But you're going to talk about Dr. Movement in a little different context for us today.
Yeah, like you said, everybody references doctor movement as movement through exercise, working in or working out. Um, but there are different elements to doctor movement, which is what we're kind of going to touch on. And when I look at doctor movement, it's not just exercise because you can move forward in everything in your life. So it's more about how you evolve as a person. So, when we go through the archetypes, which we've kind of, touched on, I don't know if they've done it a lot on the blogs yet. But, just touching on it, we're looking at the archetypes are kind of symbols that we use to kind of convey a character in our story. So we all have natural archetypes within us. And our first archetype that we explore in life on this planet is the child archetype. And why? Because you're a child when you first come here.
Right.
So when you're in the child archetype, when you look at the world as a child, everything is filled with wonder. Everything is astonishing. Like you look at a child and you marvel at the things that they find fascinating, such as the first time they see birds in the sky, or the first time you show them a silver coin. The wonderment in their eyes, and that's the start of your life. Everything is wonder, and everything is exploration. When you exist as the child archetype. So when we talk about movement in life, what we're talking about is when you evolve past the child and you start to evolve in life, you go through different archetypes. So obviously we know about the survival archetypes, which is the child, which is the first one that you explore. And then the victim, prostitute, and saboteur, which are part of your survival archetype. These are things that we use as we start to evolve ourselves in our lives. Sometimes we need to become the victim to feel support from others, and sometimes we go through stages of sabotaging ourselves. And as we go through our survival, we get to a certain point where we feel like we need to sabotage a stage of growth because when we don't feel we're ready for that stage of growth. So because we don't feel that need to progress, we stop ourselves from progressing with the saboteur. And so we had victim, saboteur, and then child. What was the other one that I just said? Um, Victim, saboteur, child.
Was the prostitute?
Yes, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Institute. So and obviously there are certain points. We said this on the last call. Sometimes we feel the need to prostitute ourselves, such as as we start to grow through our life, we may start to hang out with friends that we don't really feel that we should do, but because we need to fit in with the crowd so that we don't have the pressure of the world, we prostitute ourselves and our values by hanging out with certain people, such as certain people that want to go and knock down, smash cars, or go into a convenience store and rob something, and they say, "Oh, you've got to get involved with us when we do this." So we sometimes prostitute ourselves to fit in with the crowd. So these are parts of our growth, and as we go through these challenges in our lives, we naturally start to evolve our decision making. And as we start to evolve our decision making, we are in the stage of movement. So we are using Dr. Movement to evolve because we are evolving our choices, we're evolving the types of practices that we do, the choice of types of people that we start to hang out with, and our friends start to evolve. Sometimes, we make better choices or worse choices. So when we talk about doctor movement, we're talking about choices that we make that we're using to evolve our state of growth on this world. So we move from the child archetype right up through the stages of adulthood, and as we evolve there, we start to learn more responsibility as we become more of an adult. And then we get to the point where we're maybe 21, so we're going through the third chakra. And at that point of 21, we start to see ourselves more of a man or a woman. And we start to take on more of the serious decisions in our lives. We decide whether or not we can get married, whether we support religions, whether we support governments and spiritual practices and circumcision or whatever. We start to evolve our thought process. And as we're doing that, we are going through a stage of movement in life. We are moving forwards into more honest decision making. We're moving forward into more of an adult mindset. So that's part of doctor movement. And when we go through that, we go through an evolution of how we see the world, because obviously as a child, going back to the child, we see the world with pure wonderment. That starts to change because, we get rid of Santa Claus and all this sort of stuff. And we start to see, the real heroes and villains, as Paul spoke about. We start to see the real heroes and villains in our lives. And that makes a thought process change. We start to become more serious with our thoughts. When we were a child, going back to the child again, when we see cartoons, we see Tom and Jerry, Tom is the villain, but it's, we don't take it seriously. So now as we evolve and we start to see, governments, we start to see the radical Muslims or radical Christians or whatever that are suicide bombers or whatever. Now we see real villains. So we evolve our thought process on whether or not now a villain is either comical, like Tom and Jerry, or if a villain is actual, such as a suicide bomber. So we evolve our thought process. So my point on that is, as we go through life and we develop, we are moving through transitional stages of growth and responsibility and awareness. So that's already a stage of doctor movement. Now, progressing that. We've touched on this before, so I'll only touch on it a little bit because the viewers can just watch the videos when we've gone through the chakras in detail. But just to summarize that, obviously, we talk about these 7 major chakras in our body that are relating to 7-year cycles. And the first chakra up to the 7th chakra all are at 7-year cycles. And once you've gone past that first chakra in your development, you've got into your 7th year. And that means you're supposed to have gone through the imagination, you're supposed to have gone through safety and security and family association, where you're totally dependent on your family to support you. Once you go from 7 to 14, you're now at a stage where you're an adolescent and you're starting to understand males and female differences, and that, there are relationships, and, as you grow up, you're going to be able to have a child of your own. And so, you go through 7-year cycles through your development and growth. And some people in the Western world do not grow up past, and Paul says this a lot, they don't grow up past the age of around 12. They still have this child mentality. And you see this a lot where a lot of people are arguing over things that are seemingly irrelevant. We know that a lot of these wars, there's 2 men, not women, but typically men with egos that just don't want to back down. That's a child mentality. So they haven't grown. They're just children with bigger toys. And the toys happen to be nuclear weapons. So we know that those people aren't truly progressing in their life. They just have more money. So when we talk about, doctor movement as a means of progress in your life, we're talking about how you can progress in your life through life's challenges and through life's awareness. And once you go through life's awareness and life's challenges, if you make the right decisions and you learn from your mistakes, then you are growing. I remember, I love Star Trek. And there was an episode with Tuvok, who's one of the Vulcans, and he was saying, the only point of making a mistake is to learn from it. So if we are learning from our mistakes and we are truly open and honest enough to hear those mistakes and hear lessons, then we are moving forward in our lives as a means of progress. So, when we look through the 6 stages of action, which of. Just to expand on what they are, pre-contemplation. And pre-contemplation, the example would be for someone who's a smoker. And every smoker knows that smoking is bad for you. When we're talking about smoking, we're talking about tobacco. Even though it's not really the tobacco, that's the problem. It's more the sugar that they put in it to make it addictive, and all the synthetic substances that they
Yeah,
put.
yeah.
But they're at the stage of pre-contemplation, which is pretty much denial, where they know that they should stop smoking, but it's always at the stage of pre-contemplation. So that's the first stage. Then the second stage is contemplation, where maybe someone in their family has died or someone close has died of cancer, and now they start to contemplate it. Or maybe they just start to feel worse for it. But either way, they're at the stage of contemplation, which is the second stage, where now they're actually thinking, maybe I should give this some thought. And then the third stage, once they've gone past contemplation, then they get to the stage of preparation. And preparation would be like someone who's actually done some research, or spoken to people about it who have given up, and now that they're preparing to give up by gathering the facts. And then once they've gotten to the stage of preparation, they've gathered all the facts and all the information, all the advice that they need, and now they're at the fourth stage, which is action. So they start to action the information that they've gathered. And once they're at that stage of action, they are now doing the thing that they started to prepare for. And once they've gone past action, the next stage, the fifth stage, is, and this kind of sounds weird, it's once they've gone past action, then they get to this weird stage of maintenance where they no longer need to kind of think about the action, because they're in a maintenance stage. They've done for a long period of time now, where every single day they wake up and they already know what they've been doing, because they've been doing it long enough that now they're just maintaining it. So that's the fifth stage, is maintenance. And then the final stage, which sounds kind of weird, is termination. Termination, the sixth stage, but the reason why it's called termination is they don't stop doing it. It's just they no longer need to think about it in any way, any way, shape, or form. It's such a habit now that they can terminate the thought process, because it's just happening automatically. So they're on autopilot. And when you go through that, that's also a stage of doctor movement, because you've moved through stages of action. There's another thing that we look at when stages of growth, and this is the four stages of awareness. And conscious awareness. You got a really squeaky chair, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to stay very still.
Your man is like, I've got to try and stay still. This chair is very still. I'm not very quiet. That chair needs some doctor quiet.
It does.
So then the next is the four stages of conscious awareness, which are a means of progress and growth. And the four stages of conscious awareness is where we go through, not pre-contemplation, but we go through unconscious incompetence. So you got unconscious incompetence, then you got conscious incompetence, and we'll go through this, expand these. And then you've got conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. And that sounds like, well, why is it changed? But we'll explain that. So unconscious competence would be someone who's unconsciously doing something quite badly or poorly. So they're unconscious, they're unaware of how bad they're doing something. So we'll use exercise as an example. So someone like those guys that are in gyms doing all their cheek curls and all that sort of stuff, and they're swinging the weights. So they're unconsciously incompetent. They're unconsciously doing something very, very badly with poor technique. So that's unconscious incompetence. And then a CHEK practitioner will go over to them and say, right, you've got to stop swinging from your hips and cheating the exercise because of blah, blah, blah. So now they're at conscious incompetence, and now they've been explained, it's been explained to them how poor that technique is. So now they're consciously incompetent, but they're still doing it badly. They just now are aware they're doing it badly. So that's the conscious incompetence. Then the third stage of conscious awareness is conscious competence.
Mm-hmm.
Because now the CHEK practitioner is now coaching them
Mm-hmm.
and is constantly correcting their form.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to think about doing
Right.
it. And that's consciously competent because they have to keep thinking about doing it right.
Yeah.
And eventually, 6 to 8 weeks later, as an example, they no longer have to think about doing it correctly. It's done correctly through repetition.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's unconsciously competent. So
Gotcha.
you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So we can use that for anything in life. If you're consciously competent of developing your core values or living your core values, as an example. So this is another example of moving forwards in your life. So what we find is that most people in the Western world that aren't making progress in their life, it's because they're not moving their life forwards. Most people are repeating Groundhog Day. And what we've said before is, 90% of the thoughts that we have today are the ones we had yesterday. And the problem being 95% of those are negative. So if you're constantly reliving negative thoughts on a daily basis, then you are not moving forward in your life as a means of progress. So we've kind of highlighted, what this all means. So how does the client or the listener use that information to move forward? We've kind of highlighted the 4 stages of conscious awareness.
Yeah.
We've kind of highlighted these 6 stages of action. So now the next thing to do would be how to ignite all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So one great thing would be, my chair's kind of squeaky as well. One great thing would be start with Paul's 4-quadrant coaching. We've kind of did a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
Because it helps you to understand and embrace identifying your archetypes that work for you, which are symbols that allow you to identify the tools that work for you. So if you're an artist as an archetype and you express the artist as your main driver, that allows you to fulfill your soul contract. That allows you to move forward, because once you embrace that soul contract and you embrace that artist, then your life is more fulfilled because you know the direction. So what we're saying on that is, the first thing is you have to identify your archetypes. And once you identify the archetypes as symbols that are naturally inherent in you, now put a caveat to that, you have to make sure that you're honest and know that the archetypes are things that are naturally occurring in you. So some people that are great listeners. That means their natural archetype would be something that allows them to be able to listen. So maybe they're a counselor, they're a coach, they're a psychiatrist or something like that, or someone who's a great speaker who may not have developed, in school, but as in they didn't go and study how to speak or how to be a great orator. But they're just so good at it. Like a lot of these street children that are incredible poets and rappers, they've never been taught, but it's natural within them. So that might be their natural archetype. Or someone who's, I've worked with a lot of boxers and stuff, and certain people, oh my gosh, that guy's a natural fighter. So that might be the warrior expressed in them, and they can use that and translate into being a great basketball player or whatever. So the archetype that is natural for you, ones that are naturally occur in you without any training. You can train them, but they naturally occur within you. So once you found your archetypes, the ones that are naturally occurring in you, and you find the ones that you want to evolve into, such as for me, one of those is the healer or the teacher. Once you start to identify that, you become empowered to want to fulfill that contract that you have with yourself. So that's the first thing, is kind of identify what archetypes are naturally occurring in you. And people can go online, they can Google archetypes and figure out which ones, they can get a list. But the reason why I brought up Paul Chek's 4-quadrant coaching, one, we just did it recently, and two, because it's incredibly powerful to get people to identify things that are needed in their life to help them fulfill their legacy. Once they've kind of done that, and the next stage would be to work on their story or their myth, figure out what it is that you want to fulfill, what you want to, it's not just about having a goal for your life, it's about having a theme for your life. It's the theme. If the theme is to be the artist, then you've got a great theme and you work on fulfilling that theme. So once you've established your theme, and your archetypes, and you know what your life story is, your legacy is, then all it is from there is adding tools to that to be able to achieve that. And like I said, the 6 stages of action and the 4 stages of conscious awareness help you to agree and to develop that. The next thing, like we said, is just working on your chakras, the development of the emotional connection to every single chakra to make sure they're balanced. Once your chakras are balanced, or your thought process related to the chakras are balanced, then you know where you need to evolve your practice to be in flow with the dominant chakra within you. Once you know what the dominant chakra is within you, which is the dominant choice that you wish to make, which ties into the archetype that you naturally want to become, then everything is in flow. And once everything is flow, you know your life purpose. Once you know your life purpose, you just live it. And that's kind of what we want to do to progress in our life through Doctor Movement.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul has a saying, life is movement, right? And
Yeah.
if you're not moving, you're not really living. So this is sort of exactly what you've been telling us here today.
Yeah. And I hope that, people understand that, the message here, to traverse their life is an upward curve. And sometimes it doesn't mean that, like, when Paul was saying to us at the 4 quadrant coaching that he said life is the lesson, and that it's about you, because the guy, I don't know if you remember, there's a guy who's, I think he was a Buddhist, and he was quoting Buddha and saying that there is no way, happiness is the way. And then Paul's like, no, 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 no. There is no life. Oh no, he said something like life is the way. It's not. I can't remember how he said it. He said, anyway, it wasn't happiness is the way. He said life is the way. And the reason why he said that is because if happiness is the way, then if there are challenges in your life that force you to not be happy, then you're not going to be in flow with that statement. So he was like saying, no, life is the way, because if life is the way, then you'll take the good and the bad. And, I can't remember the quote right now, but he was like saying, it's not those that don't have happiness that are, sorry, it's not those that have happiness that are happy, it's those that are sad and can see the happiness even in the bad times or something, right? And yeah, people will kind of understand what that kind of means.
Well, it goes back to in some ways, to your story about the Vulcans, right? This idea that if you focus just on what went wrong, right? When you make a mistake, all you do is sort of get this emotional wallowing, right? But if you see that as the opportunity to learn and to grow from it, well, then it's a vastly different experience, right? And it's something that propels you forward. And so rather than just being mired in this emotion of, oh, I'm wrong, you move. That's the movement.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're going to have bad things happen to us. They have that saying, plan for the best, expect the worst. So if you plan for the best but you expect the worst, then there's no surprise. And when there is no surprise, if a bad thing happens, like you said, you kind of just roll with it. So it's not always about things have to be happy all the time for you to be happy, because that's like saying, I remember speaking to people that I'd see every so often, they know what I do and stuff, and they'd say, oh, I'm going to come and see you, I'm just waiting until I get fit first. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
No one's come to me because you're not fit. Yeah. And some of my clients, I often say to them, it's easy being calm when there's nothing to be anxious about. That's easy. The challenge is being calm when there are things to be unhappy or to be frustrated or stressed about. Everyone, we always notice this, everyone can give great advice when it's not happening to them.
Yeah.
But they can't follow their own advice when it is happening to them.
Yeah.
So in order for you to be able to move and flow in your life, it's about, like you said, course correcting when you need to handle the bad times, and just to see everything as relative. What am I learning from this? So it's like, something that I remember Paul said, which I think was amazing, when he just said, it's not about, when things happen, see it as a beautiful opportunity for growth. It's not only when things happen in a nice way. So every challenge, and this is how he summarizes it, every challenge is a beautiful opportunity for growth. And if you see it like that, and the challenge comes to you, say, right, what's the lesson here? What can I learn from this travesty or this trauma or this event that allows me to propel myself forwards in life to overcome that?
Right.
It's almost like the woman or man who dates the same man
Mm-hmm.
7 times in a row.
Right.
And I think Paul gave us example in the course about some woman that he had as a client that had, what was it, 7 or so different relationships with men that kept on beating her up.
Yeah.
And she just kept on going. And this happened for like 25 years of her life.
Mm.
She kept on dating men that kept on beating her up. And
Mm.
she had end that relationship and date another guy that did the same thing.
Mm.
So she wasn't moving forward in her life. She was constantly spiraling, creating Groundhog Day. So what she should have done was seen the situation and said, right, what am I not learning from this lesson?
Yeah.
And then evolve by embracing her archetypes and knowing where she needed to move forwards in life to not attract that type of thing, because you attract what you are.
Yeah.
You attract what you need to grow out of.
Yeah. Yeah. So question, Warren. It sounds like there's something has to happen. There has to be this catalyst where that takes you from the unconscious incompetence, right? Where you're making these mistakes and you kind of don't really understand why. You might recognize that they're mistakes, but you haven't gotten to what's underneath it, to that stage of conscious incompetence, where at least you're recognizing there's a problem and you can make that shift to asking, what can I learn? So how do you work with clients to develop that awareness, that the shift, so that to learn, right, rather than just repeat.
Yes, great question. It helps these, again, it's always great when you ask these questions.
Yeah.
Um, Honesty is the easy part, but I remember when Paul explained, he had this great statement, and he said it at the course the other day, but I remembered he said this probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And he explains the question in one simple way about how to change.
Mm.
And he said, the reason why people can't change is because they're stuck in their left brain.
Mm.
And he explained the reason why. We'll expand on that in a sec. He gave his expression, this saying, he said, if you're running from a lion, it's the wrong time to throw in a cartwheel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What that means, I always remember he said this years ago. What it means is obviously if you're running from a lion, you're not going to do anything creative. Creative is the right brain. So you wouldn't do that. You would do whatever you need to do to survive. Often it's the same thing you've always done.
Yeah.
But that's your left brain engaging itself. And before I kind of explain that and answer your question, I remember I saw a comedy film. I might have said this in one of the other blogs, I can't remember. But this is apt for this question. I remember I saw a comedy film years ago, and these 3 guys were being chased. There's a scene where these 3 guys were being chased by a bear. And obviously bears can outrun humans. And the guy in front was running, and the guy behind him was trying to keep up as they were running from this bear. And the guy behind the guy in front said, what we're doing, we can't outrun the bear. And the guy in front said, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
I just have to outrun you, because if I outrun you and you get caught by the bear, I'm safe.
Yes, right.
And that's kind of what he was saying. And that kind of is quite apt, because that's quite a creative thinking process in a stage of fear.
Yeah.
Now, to answer your question, the reason why most people don't change and find it hard to change and create those aha moments is because people are stuck in their left brain. So what we mean by that, obviously the left brain is the logical mind, logical analytical side of us. And the left brain typically reacts when we're in stress, because of that example of you can't run from a lion. So the reason why people find it hard to change is because they're stuck in their left brain.
Yeah.
So when people are running, using the example of the running from a lion,
Yeah.
when you're running from a lion, you'll do whatever you need to survive. So if you run, you might flail your hands while you're running. You don't care about running technique per se. You're just trying to survive. So the reason why most people can't change or have that aha moment is because they are stuck in their left brain. So they are constantly repeating Groundhog Day. So as we kind of said earlier, most people's thoughts are negative.
Yeah.
And when they're negative, you are in your left brain. And when you're in left brain and you're in autopilot doing whatever you always used to do, even if it doesn't work, that means you can't access your right brain. And the reason why is because you're in a fear response, and then the fear response is do whatever you need to survive. Now, in order for people to embrace all the stuff we spoke about, you have to be in your right brain. Now, the reason why is because the right brain is the intuitive, creative polarity of ourselves. And in order for you to accept new ideas, you have to be living in your right brain to accept new ideas. So if I say something constantly to you and you won't change, it's because you're stuck in your left brain. So now the real question after that is now, how do I shift to my right brain?
That's right, yeah.
So some of the ways that you can shift to your right brain, even when your left brain is saying, I don't need to do anything new, if you just do what you don't want to do, this will help. So some simple things. You spend 5 minutes every single day doing breathing exercises. Reason why is because breathing in a therapeutic, slow, controlled way shifts you to your right brain. The way we know this is everyone, including doctors, whenever you're stressed or angry, okay, breathe, just breathe. Because they know that shifts people to their right brain, where they don't think of doom and gloom anymore. So that's one thing. Start doing breathing exercises, 5 minutes every single day. And once you can do it 5 minutes once a day, start doing it 5 minutes at the start of the day, 5 minutes at the end of the day. The next thing you can do to shift into your right brain, start painting. Doesn't matter if you're any good at it. It makes no difference. It's not that you're good that makes you change. It's the fact that you're engaged in your right brain. And the harder it is for you to be able to paint, when I say the harder it is for you to be able to paint, I mean the harder it is for you to engage in the process, the more you need it. So if you start painting, the only way you can paint is with your right brain, because you have to invent something. And that means you're accessing new ideas. To access new ideas, you're automatically in your right brain. So that's another way you can do it. Another way you can do it is go and take yourself to some dance classes. Or and the dance part of it is your instruction. You're trying to use your left brain to figure out the moves, but you have to access your right brain to have fun. The next thing you can do is go and learn some Tai Chi, or some Qigong, because once you're engaging in the process, you have to use your right brain to feel. And another reason why people can't change is because they don't feel the need to change. They don't feel the need to change. So when you're in your right brain, you can feel, you connect more. So like Bruce Lee said, don't think, feel. It's been a little while since I've thrown in the Bruce Lee quote.
Yeah, I know. I've been waiting for it.
So yeah, like Bruce Lee said, don't think, feel. So once you are thinking everything, you're stuck in your left brain. When you feel everything, you're stuck in your right brain. So those are some of the simple ways we can do that. So once you start doing some of these practices that allow you to engage in your right brain, at that point that you feel like you've engaged in your right brain, that's when you start to write down your thoughts about what you need to do to change. So an example, I have a friend and she was finding it hard to engage in this new thought process. And, she smoked. And I said to her, and drank as well. But I said to her, okay, because she's been struggling about trying to write down new ideas. And I said, okay, not that, I'm promoting this, but if you're already doing it, if you're already a smoker and you're trying to figure out new ways of changing and stuff, I said to her, well, one of the times when you're trying to write some stuff down, just do your normal smoking that you do, and then write down your ideas. The reason why is because when you're smoking, and she wasn't smoking cigarettes, she was smoking other stuff that was more therapeutic in accessing the right brain. Like when people talk about medical marijuana, that induces your right brain, induces your creativity. I remember when Paul said, if you get two groups of people, and you say to one group, paint a picture and drink alcohol first. And then you say to the other group, paint a picture but smoke first. The people that smoked would have a far better picture. Because they're more relaxed. So some people that are constipated, they can't go toilet unless they smoke. Part of smoking, but part of it is when you smoke, what's the one thing that you do to smoke? You have to breathe slowly. So that's engaging the right brain. So like I said, let's clarify. I am not saying People, if you don't smoke, start and do this. I'm saying if you're already doing that, this is
Yes,
another way you can.
gotcha.
So the main process is the slow breathing of the smoking that's creating the right brain response.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do any of these sort of things that we spoke about, the Tai Chi, the dancing, the drawing, the breathing, once you've done that for a few minutes, register how you feel. What you'll notice is you feel a lot calmer and a lot more relaxed. That means that you feel.
Yeah.
Once you feel, you're more engaged in the access point of connecting to your higher self,
Yeah.
your intuition, your clear thought. Once you're able to do that, then you can start writing down your ideas of what you need to do to change.
Yeah.
That's how to get people to change. There's no point in trying to force and try to drill this information into people. The simple thing is just get them to do something that allows them to shift into their right brain, and the change is a lot easier.
Wow, that was amazing, Warren. This has been fantastic. We started off with talking about Dr. Movement and worked through, how to change, and I don't even know where to start. I will start by reviewing this because that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Warren.
Yeah, so again, you know me, I'm always grateful to be able to do this stuff. I just really hope that, people start to see Doctor Movement now more than just exercise. Obviously, Paul's spoken about this to a degree as well, with seeing movement as more than just exercise. But hopefully this blog will help people to start to understand, even though this is quite a long blog. I'm hoping people can review, just like you said, and start thinking about what they can do in their life if they're stuck, to shift towards change, and seeing Doctor Movement as that means of change.
I think they will. So thanks, Warren, and let's do this again very soon.
Yes, let's not leave it so long next time.
Yes, I agree. All right. Well, now that we're neighbors, I should pop down. We
Yeah,
should do one together.
yeah. You had it here first, guys.
That's right.
We're soon, so we'll have a great topic for that.
I don't know if the audience can handle both of us at the same time like that.
Yeah, in the same space at the same time.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, thanks so much, Warren. We'll talk again very soon.
Peace.